nice to meet you. I'm the Gweeb.
Who are you?
I'm the Gweeb.
Oh, the Gweeb.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. So, I'm the Gweeb, and you're JizzyJ. So that
This must mean
this must be what?
this is the JizzyJ and the Gweeb in the morning and the evening at
Hey.
11:57 coming at you all
Yep.
tonight.
Right on the dot. 11:57.
Actually, it's 2 minutes above. It's 11:59, but we're gonna go ahead with
Actually, it's
11:57.
11:55 because we're prepared to be on time.
Oh yeah,
Of course.
definitely.
Yeah. But anyways, today with us we have Dr. Professor. How do you pronounce your last name again, Dr. Professor?
It's Dr. Professor Dixington.
Dixington.
Oh,
Okay.
Dr. Dixington, hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. So we
Good.
brought a Dr. Professor Professional Dixington here to talk today. The topic of discussion for this event of today on 9/12/2020, now 9/13/2020, because now it is the AM in the
Good
morning.
morning.
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning.
So basically,
And good evening, of course.
oh yes, of course. To those of you in the past, good evening. To those of you with us in the future right now, good morning. Um,
Good evening.
and to those of you in between, hello. Good
Hi.
afternoon. But the topic of discussion today is going to be Big Pizza and the Pepperoni Gate Pizza Place conspiracy scandal. Um, and if there's one thing that's for certain about the JizzyJ and the Gweeb in the morning and evening show, is that we aim to tell you the truth and nothing but the truth, and to make sure all of our listeners are informed to the maximum capacity. And so
Yeah.
today we're blowing the lid off of the bean can and spilling all the beans on Pepperoni
And
Gate. And
you know
all
how
the
we always bring in all the what were you finish that?
I was gonna say, yeah, just we're blowing the lid right off. This is all facts that Big Pizza doesn't want you to know.
This is all the truth today. So if you've been ever fed lies or false information, just listen closely and just know that you're in a safe place. That you're being fed 100% absolute truth.
Yeah, we
So
fact check every single thing we say on this podcast before it airs. So there's no reason to look it up yourself. You could take it as 100% truth, as if it was written in the Bible. So
and as you know, we always bring in professional guests. We find the best of the best through our connections, and
mhm.
so we have Mr. Dixon today, and he's gonna
Well, not don't disrespect him like that. It's Dr. Professor Dixington.
Dr. Professor. I forget that you have a PhD also. I know you have the license in deep sea inspection. That's
Correct.
that's one of the things I saw when initially when I wanted to call you up for this discussion today. But yeah, why don't you go and dive deep into this scandal that we
Yeah.
had?
Well, first of all, why don't you just start off by explaining to us like how you're qualified to talk about Big Pizza and the Pepperoni Gate Pizza Place
So,
conspiracy scandal.
yeah.
Well, I just want to let everyone know that I've studied pizzology for about 32 years now.
Wow.
And, that's just what I majored in. I got a doctorate in something completely different.
I heard pizzology is actually a really hard major to graduate in, so that must have taken a lot of work.
Yeah,
Mm.
it wasn't easy. It was a lot of dedication. But you know what? I'm here on my 33rd year, and I'm as deep into it as ever.
That's some experience. I can't imagine how like getting diving that deep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a real deep
there's
dive.
so much there's a lot to learn. But I can say that much.
A lot to learn, a lot to talk about, and Gweeb, why don't you go ahead and explain the origins of this theorem?
All right, so everyone's heard of Big Pizza, right? If you haven't had a pizza before, then I don't know where you've been. Maybe Iceland, where I believe pizza is actually banned and illegal. It's considered contraband and a class 3 substance. So if you're in Iceland,
Yeah,
I apologize. But if you're anywhere
you,
else in the
you find
world, you probably know what pizza is. So we're going to talk about just Big Pizza, the industry, and how Pepperoni Gate Pizza Place conspiracy scandal, how it all started. So basically, the history of Pepperoni Gate and the pizza place conspiracy scandal. It all started back in. Correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, Doctor, but I believe it started in 1986.
You would be right. It did start in 1986, and you know, to get right into things, one subject that I really feel hardly ever sees the light of day about the choice of pizza toppings, and I think this brings a lot of light to just Big Pizza in general, is that I think it's extremely obvious that Big Pizza is pushing pepperoni as the go-to topping. Now, of course, there's a lot of different choices, but pepperoni is definitely being pushed the hardest by Big Pizza. And when you think of pizza, 9 times out of 10, the first topping you think of is pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, I mean pepperoni. Sorry. The first topping you
yeah,
think of
yeah.
is pepperoni.
I
And if
was
it's
thinking.
not pepperoni, it's cheese. And if it's not cheese, it's the sauce. And if it's neither of those, then you know
It's
I'll
pizza.
just leave that up to the viewer's imagination. I don't
Yeah.
want to get too into it, but
Person.
But yeah, so Pepperoni Gate, Big Pizza's pushing pepperoni as the main topping, it's all got connections to Big Pepperoni as well, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Obviously they have lobbyists paying big bucks to be pushed forward, but today we're actually here to talk about Pepperoni Gate, but more specifically the pizza place conspiracy scandal. So basically in 1982, there was this pizza place called The Pizza Place, and basically, they offered every topping except for pepperoni. And it was one of the most popular pizza places at the time, especially for the area. People would come from all over the world just to try some of the world famous the pizza place pizza.
Yeah, it was on Drive Dinings and Dines that one episode, huh?
Yeah, I believe so. I personally was never able to try it. But have any of you guys were able to try it before they got shut down?
I've heard a friend about a story about it, but yeah, the friend actually lost their taste buds,
Wow.
and so we couldn't really get an accurate description. It's something I guess we have to try. You have to try yourself, because you can't really ask. I couldn't really ask him.
No, I understand. Yeah, Doctor Professor, have you ever tried the pizza place pizza?
I never got the chance to eat there, but I've heard a lot of stories.
Okay. Yeah. Well then let me continue with the history of the conspiracy scandal. So basically, um, one day it came out that the pizza place was actually um, purchased by new owners, but the new owners decided to remain anonymous. But suddenly the pizza place, the quality just started to decline, but the amount of money that was being poured into the business skyrocketed drastically. Um, and it actually came out reports of people saying that they lost their taste buds due to eating this pizza, this
Oh, okay,
pepperoni-less
so that was
pizza.
like a common thing.
Yeah, no,
I thought.
yeah, so no, it's actually really really crazy that one of your friends unfortunately lost their taste buds to it. But yeah, so the conspiracy scandal is that Big Pizza actually came in, purchased the pizza place, the most popular pizza place, and then was actually the reason of their decline because of the sole reason that they did not serve pepperoni on their pizza. And so eventually, the decline in quality also led to the decline of popularity, which ultimately led to the foreclosure of the
The
pizza.
population decline also, right?
Right, yeah, the population of taste buds in one's mouth declined drastically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the pizza place finally closed down, and we're left with the only the facts that remain for the pizza place conspiracy scandal.
Yes, and we don't have much.
Nope. Only what Big Pizza has failed in hiding or destroying, is the only evidence we have to pin them on.
Yeah, we get so the basis of our evidence is we go around and food reviewers or basic pizza enthusiasts, we'd find the regulars, and we'd ask them questions. That obviously takes a lot of time, but we know the Mr. Professor here, he's done extensive research, met over 1,000 food reviewers, and he has some things to say.
Yeah. So, looking through thousands of reviews about this place, and just with all the extensive research I've done over my years, it's hard to summarize it in one word, and I think the main thing the viewers should know, if they're coming into this and they've never known anything about the Pepperoni Gate ever, and they don't know much about Big Pizza, be careful. It's not a safe world out there. Big Pizza's not playing around. And the Pepperoni Gate is just it's something more people need to know about.
Yeah, it's often swept under the rug, and you bring up a good point. Like, so not many people know about it. Of course, they're not going to be aware, and they're not going to be taking the right precautions against it. And as you'll know, Pizzagate is, or the Big Pepperoni, the biggest foundation of them all, and they have outreach.
Right.
Yeah, so it's actually really crazy how far back this Pepperoni Gate goes. Dr. Professor was just talking earlier a few minutes ago about how, when you think of pizza, pepperoni is just the first thing that comes to mind, right? That's like the automatic pizza topping that everybody knows. And it actually took a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of, advertising and such by Big Pizza to push this forward to the front of public knowledge. So Dr. Professor, do you want to talk a little bit more about, the general history of pizza, like where it started, how it came to be?
It goes deep.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the history of pizza, and I'm glad you brought this up because I noticed on a previous episode of your guys' podcast that you guys mentioned traveling back in time to slap John Wilkes Booth's ass.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask you guys this before I get into my story. Is were you guys aware at all of any of the history of like sort of the beef between Lincoln and Wilkes Booth, or were you guys just going in there trying to slap a little ass and get out of there?
Yeah, that was it. We were going in blind.
You were just going in blind, right?
We were pretty high, so we were just like, all right,
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
so then,
got a time machine.
what I'm going to tell you now might be a little hard to believe, but if my research from 32 years is right, then I've got a big secret to share with you, and I'm not sure if you're ready to hear it.
Oh,
but
spill the tea.
The tea will be spilled. So, basically, from what I know, pizza obviously wasn't, as popular of a dish back in those times, right? But it was definitely around, and rumor has it that it was more of like a delicacy between the higher ups. So, someone like the president himself may have enjoyed himself a little pizza here and now, And if my research is correct, Abraham Lincoln was known to enjoy, and I mean thoroughly enjoy, pineapple on his pizza. And John Wilkes Booth was not having it.
Wow. So
he said this man has got to go.
So he called for the unity?
That's right.
Wow. And the whole did you research about the union at all? I know they had one specific topping, that it would spread throughout the ranks. but I wasn't sure
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. The union was known for a lot of anchovies,
Really?
olives, just
I thought
like
that was more the
random
South.
stuff that just wasn't very popular yet,
Uh-huh.
and they would just try to push you know different stuff that just was not normal. Now, of course, it's normal because all these different companies. We got Big Pizza, Big Pepperoni. Everyone's out there
Uh-huh.
that are trying to push different things. But back then they were real sneaky about it, and the union was one of those groups that if you didn't know any better, next thing you know, you thought having anchovies on your pizza was the next big thing, and it was a delicacy for the higher up, so they were doing whatever.
Yeah, now this is I've actually read this in a it was like very dusty book in my attic. This is what got me into the whole Pizzagate. I guess my grandfather was collecting, and he was part of it. I never got to ask him about it, before his demise, but he had a book, and in it, I was reading about how pizza was made farther than we expect, and the Renaissance was the actual time that it was invented, but it was kept a secret by these companies that were basically in the church at the time, and they decided this is a better way to go, but they only held pizza parties for the nobles and the higher class, and they kept it like that until the actual time that pizza was invented. But
Wow.
that was in the book. Yeah, I don't know how it was very dusty, but
I
if you find books like you gotta believe them.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that that book was filled with a lot of interesting information that not a lot of people know about. It's probably a pretty rare book considering the efforts of Big Pizza to kind of suppress that kind of knowledge. Um,
Yeah, they go.
yeah, so I'm sorry to bring this up. You don't have to answer if you don't like, but do you think your grandfather's research into this book is what led to his death? Do you think it's connected to Big Pizza at all?
Well, I know he was obsessed with pizza. He was one of the ultimate pizza reviewers. Actually, he was noted. He had 5 Academy Awards for his pizza reviews across the country,
Wow.
and he went to like South Africa, and I think it was he did a tour in Russia, more around the Crimea area, and you know he because that's where the pizza's popping, and he realized that, and he kept logs, and that I've read extensively. But yeah, he's been all around. But uh but to answer your question, he has been going a little crazy the last few years. I got to know him, and I didn't know about, obviously I didn't know about the conspiracy back then.
Hmm.
Before, he would never share anything. He was kind of crazy when it came to that. If I asked him anything, he'd like he'd like close his door. He'd shut his door on me.
Right. Yeah, that's not knowledge. He was probably trying to keep it very secretive so that he couldn't know who was listening in. Probably. I know
Yeah,
Big Pizza has their little greedy little chubby little fingers everywhere. They're listening in. They're seeing everywhere.
and now that you mention it, I do recall sometimes, because I was just a kid, back then, and I mean, that was like my first sus behavior that I've witnessed. Grandparents aren't supposed to be like that,
Hmm.
but like sometimes he was a great guy, but just that those moments, he'd come home probably around like 10 o'clock at night, because I'd be waiting up for him sometimes, and he'd have grease coming out of his ears.
Oh.
Yeah, like pooling out, like almost like a super soaker, and it left like trails down the hallway into his room. And then every night, like um, I'd see him cleaning the trails up and then going to sleep, and like and nobody would know about it because I would be the only one to stay awake.
Wow.
Hmm.
Now I have to ask this, but Was your grandfather in any shape or form an advocate against pepperoni, and maybe this is why he was being targeted specifically?
Oh, big time. He's well, obviously he's a pineapple Hawaiian guy. That's why I got the hereditary trait, and he hated pineapple or he hated pepperoni.
Mm,
He wouldn't touch it. He wouldn't even look at it. He'd make us order the pizza off the menus because he didn't want to see the pepperoni beforehand.
wow, yeah.
And I didn't really connect it before, but yeah, now that you say it, he's kind of an advocate against it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if it's all connected in some way. If you don't mind me asking, what was the cause of death of your grandfather?
The grease fire?
A grease fire, you say?
Yes.
That does seem a little suspect. I'm not putting two and two together here, but I'm writing 2 + 2 = question mark on the page for anybody to put it together themselves.
I don't know. I guess I kind of blocked it out, but now that I think about it, it was at a meat farm, packaging salamis, bolognas, pepperonis. Fell into a vat of grease, a tub, actually, boiling.
Oh my god. That that doesn't seem like something your grandfather would be willing to jump into.
And I never really discussed it, but now that I'm saying it, how does one really fall into a bucket of grease, You don't
Yeah.
really voluntarily jump into it thinking,
Mhm.
it's going to be good.
They don't install diving boards right next to it,
They'd have diving boards, they'd have the ladders you can climb out, and they'd probably have like pool filters,
Yeah.
You're not like, is not any bad,
They
stuff in
probably
there.
have like a grease pool boy to clean it up when it gets dirty. Maybe like a grease pool
Yeah,
lifeguard or something. But it
yeah, he
seems
has
like they
the whole chair, the raised chair that's all greasy, and you got the net, and they put chlorine, so you can smell the chlorine in there, so
mm,
if
yeah,
it's legit.
right. Yeah, but that doesn't sound like what your grandfather fell into.
No, no, the way it was described was it was a railing, a tub of grease, boiling grease, and it was just a round cylindrical tub, and I didn't hear anything about any diving pools or chlorine, nothing like that.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting.
Hmm.
Doctor Professor, do you know about any history of the disappearances of advocates against pepperoni? Like, is being pushed into or falling into a tub of boiling grease a common tactic used by Big Pizza and Big Pepperoni to kind of suppress their enemies?
Well, I don't want to get too into specifics here because we're still working on a lot of things. I'm researching every single day, but
Yeah,
I
so
will
classic.
say it's clear what's happened here. If we think that's the worst of it, it can't be. Just imagine what else Big Pizza is doing. We know they're up to no good. It's clear what's happening here, and people need to be made more aware of this. We can't just keep letting this slide. I've been at this for 32 years now, trying to
Wow,
get people. You know, I just want
so
people to learn.
in all your experience, would you say that my grandfather was executed?
I would agree. Yeah, I think there's no other option here. Honestly, like everything points to that.
They said he killed himself, you know?
Yeah. Who found his body first?
The company that was running the factories.
Wow. So the
I
pepperoni
never got
company.
the name. I never got the name.
Seems a little
I don't think
fishy
they
that
had it.
they wouldn't that they didn't even have a name. Wow.
Yeah, because
So
I went up to the place, because I'd pick up my grandfather from every now and then. They didn't even have anything outside, no signs inside. Everything was whiteouted. You know, with the whiteout.
oh, they whited out their signs?
Yeah,
No, but
Like the signs were there, but they had the white strips like blocking out the parts of the letters, so I couldn't see the whole thing.
wow, so it was like partially redacted.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I just want to circle back real quick. You said you would pick up your grandfather here before. So is this like a place you would frequent often?
Oh yeah, I went there almost every day.
Oh wow. Do you think he was like collecting some type of information for like research purposes, or what was his reason for being there?
Well, he initially worked there. He was a binocular, and don't be confused with the equipment, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right. Well, I mean that takes two binocular, right? Takes two of them to make binoculars for the equipment.
yeah, you take the two lenses and you make a binocular to view it. But as a person, if one, it's a person is one person. So to
Yes.
become a binocular, you just need yourself, and you don't need anything extra.
Okay. But continue.
Oh yeah, so he went underneath, overboard, in the floors, in the creek, the creek where creeks and stuff, in the pipes, and he'd go through and make sure that nobody can see inside. Like no, there's no like peepholes to look inside from the outside. I
Wow.
always thought that was kind of strange, but I mean, you know, the job.
So what it sounds like to me is that they had him doing the dirty work, and he started looking into it, trying to figure out, hey, something's a little weird, and I gotta get to the bottom of it. And then sounds like Big Pepperoni showed him the bottom of the grease tub.
I don't want to believe it. I refuse to believe it, and I decline to accept it. I do remember, however, some days when I pick them up, usually in the ends of the weeks, um, there'd be specific like noises that I'd hear. It always happens every week.
What kind of noises?
So it was coming from the top of the factory. It sounded. I don't know how you describe. It's hard to describe. So just imagine popping a balloon, but in reverse, and then but the balloons are like pushed into the shape of a, like a rectangle.
Whoa.
So they hit your ears at different corners, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But and then the smell was just something different every time. It
Wow.
was like it wasn't a smell I've smelled before, like anywhere else in the earth. So that's why it's incredibly hard to describe. But just picture if your nose was like at the back of your head, and you were smelling anything really, um, but like you had to wait for it to come like to the top from the back of your head, or from the front of your head to the back. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a smell with a time delay, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that kind of does.
Hmm.
I can
Yeah,
picture it.
yeah.
So,
So that
so it's not anything you've ever heard or smelt before, but
nope.
you would always, it was always something that was present at the end of the
Every
week.
Friday,
Okay.
every Friday.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Hmm. Is that from any of your reviews, Mr. Professor? Any of your research?
Well, something I'd like to point out that I think is a bit interesting here. You noted that it sounded different there.
Uh-huh.
It smelled different there. A friend of yours that visited the place where they make the pizza, it affected his taste. I mean, that's almost all the senses. There's only a couple more. Like, just imagine the
It's like
limits on
4 or
what this
5.
thing can do to the body.
Oh my god.
So you're telling me that they're trying to tap into our senses?
Oh my god.
I think that may very well just be the start of it.
What do you think they want our senses for, Mr. Professor?
Well, I think with control over all five senses, one can maintain the lower population in a single mind state. And I think pizza is extremely, a helping hand in that cause. I think with pizza they control the minds, with the senses they control the minds, And think about it, if they can remove our taste buds, make us hear different, smell different, like
Wow.
just imagine what else they're working on.
Yeah,
Man, you're freaking.
yeah, that's really crazy. Because now that I think about it, pizza's not really something that you would consider high class. It's considered, at least now. I know that you said earlier that it was considered a delicacy, but now when I think of pizza, I think like low to middle class. I don't really think of like people in bow ties eating pizza, or people in
$5
suits.
large pepperoni.
So
CC.
Right.
so that actually goes hand in hand with what you said about trying to control the lower classes. That's why the upper class don't eat pizza.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Let me put it to you this way. It's almost as if the amount of pizza consumption in a year sets your tax bracket. Just think about who's at the top. And they're probably eating the least amount of pizza every year. And just go down the rankings. The pizza consumption just goes up.
Now, are they eating this? Are they not eating this pizza? Or are they just not paying for this pizza?
Or are they eating a special kind of pizza that's not infused with this whatever it is that's taking over people's senses?
It has no value.
I think what the higher ups eat now is got to be something that some type of pizza that we don't even know is possible. Because think about it.
Oh my god!
I told you.
Sorry.
I told you back in the day that Abraham Lincoln was known to have pineapples on his pizza, right? And John Wilkes Booth, he was a pepperoni man. And there was people in groups like the Union that pushed other weird things like anchovies or olives, right? But think about it. If those were all in the mix back then between only the higher ups, and the general population probably didn't know because they just weren't eating pizza. So think about now, if the general population is eating all this basic stuff like what they liked back then, pepperoni, pineapple, and whatnot, imagine what the higher ups are eating.
Wow, so there's probably topics that we, the general public, haven't even heard of yet.
Right.
That wow, that actually really made me think when you said that they're eating something different than us. When you think of pizza, like I said earlier, it's like middle and lower class. But what's the high class version of a pizza? When you think of this, it's basically a pizza, but they don't call it a pizza, and it's considered high class. Flatbreads, right?
Right. I think that's just the start of it.
Oh my god, this is so deep. This is a lot deeper than I thought it went.
Yeah, it gets deep. It definitely gets deep. I've even heard that it goes back farther than Abraham Lincoln himself.
Oh my, how far back does it go?
Well, I remember JizzyJ earlier mentioning that in his grandfather's research, how he was reading a book about the subject, and I remember you saying that's rare that he even had a book about because it's hard to come by knowledge nowadays. But if my research is correct, the Romans actually burned earlier versions of pizza when they burned the Library of Alexandria. Meaning pizza could have been around for thousands of years, if not longer.
And we could have even had more advanced pizzas back then than we did now.
Right.
Wow.
Yes. What that goes back to the Renaissance and have you ever heard of the library of pizzeria?
I have done extensive research on that library.
And the Gweeb, have you heard of this said library?
I actually haven't. I have no knowledge of it.
So we have 3-1 right here, and this brings up a very important topic. This obviously the professional will know about this said library, but it's often skewed. It's often it's not often. It's actually is erased from history, and it was in fact burned down. and it was one of the greatest library fires of Roman Catholic history. It was one of the reasons that they started to build more churches, in fact, because they thought it was an act of Satan, to burn down this library. But
Right.
Of course, it was corporate greed,
Exactly.
All part of Big Pizza's plan.
Yeah, and that's really where the term corporate greed comes from. It never really existed before they existed. They are greed in itself.
Wow, corporate grease. I didn't know that's where that term came from.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they got real greasy with it back then.
They got greedy and they got greasy, and then it kind of just formed into one,
Greets.
And
Pizza.
Oh my God, the Greetza.
Yeah, that's one of the ones in that book that I was reading.
Oh my God, is that how the? Oh my God, do you think their base of operations is the country Greece? Do you think that's where Big Pizza's operating out of?
I mean, it did say it in the book on the bottom where it said all companies of pizza are operating in the Mediterranean Sea. So
it makes so much sense now.
I guess I just skewed right past it, but
it's like we're connecting the dots live on the air.
Mm-hmm. And it was never it was a classified. Obviously, we got tapped into the classified information, and it was our government and multiple other governments, Russia and South Africa. Because they had a hold on pizza at the time, and they didn't know themselves. They weren't above the class. These classes are above nation, and so they all tapped in together with satellites to look for this place, and they couldn't find anything on land. But what I'll tell you right now is in that book that I read, it say water based. It said Mediterranean Sea water base, and that's all. And the rest of it was ripped out.
Can I tell you guys something?
Yeah.
I think, I've never really stated this publicly before because it's something I've been researching for a long time, but I have a hunch that their base of operations might be Atlantis and may have always been Atlantis.
Wait a minute. So all those expeditions lost.
Or
Fine.
Or they're still around and we have no clue.
Wow. They could be operating under our noses and we have no idea.
I mean, think about this. This is something that, gets swept up under the rug often, I think. Everyone knows that Big Pizza is always watching, right? They've got eyes everywhere. But I think what a lot of people fail to realize, or to think about at least, is that there's a pizza place on almost every block.
Mm-hmm.
And, anyone can make a pizza. You just get some dough, throw your sauce on it, and slap your meat on top, and it's done. That's all there is to it. But in terms of a business, it's a foolproof plan. No one ever stops to consider what might be going on behind the counter,
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I don't think about behind the counter of a pizza place.
I need to eat.
Exactly. And I think that's just more proof that they just slip right under our noses every day, everything that they're doing. But when in reality, they've just got eyes and ears everywhere, and taste buds and hears sounds as well.
Mm-hmm. And anybody that contradicts them or goes against them, they just end up taking out in a discreet way, making it look like an accident or suicide, or they have their ways. And now
Exactly.
Now that I'm really thinking about it, we just talked about Greece and how that could be their central location of operations. And have you guys heard of the philosopher Plato or Plato, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know he's from Athens, Greece, right? And now that I'm thinking about it, he was a well-known big advocate for cheese pizza, no topping pizza, no toppings other than just the sauce and cheese. And he really went against the grain when it came to it. He was fighting against pepperoni back then in 348 BC E, and then he died in mysterious ways. And I think that could be linked to him being in the main headquarters of Big Pizza, and he's spreading information that would, disprove all the facts that Big Pizza is trying to spew to their people in Greece, out of all places.
And these mysterious ways, were there any clues of evidence of any kind to how he exactly died?
Yeah, they actually found a pepperoni in his left hand pocket upon his death. And he was so against pepperoni and just any toppings at all. So
Why would he have a pepperoni in his pocket?
Yeah, it's almost like that was Big Pizza's little calling card way of saying, like, hey, we're always around, and you can't use this as proof to take us down, but you could use it as proof to know that we're here and we're watching.
Yeah, and I remember I read in a Jules Verne book. Jules Verne was a big advocate. He's the writer of Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I remember the first movie I watched. One of the first scenes, the kid actor, he called to order some pizza, and the guy asked if he wanted pepperoni. Like, that was the first thing he asked him, and he hung up on it. And I remember that scene so vividly when I was a kid, and it didn't really click until now. But it's put into all forms of entertainment. It's largely influenced in Hollywood. Also, it's everywhere you look.
Wow. Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And about the grease, as you all know, like, if you needed to kill a mass amount of people and you didn't have the research, or you didn't want to manufacture big weapons or armor, artillery, or anything, I feel like grease would be a really valuable resource, because grease is everywhere. Grease comes out of our fingers.
Yeah, grease is a very renewable substance.
And if you're gonna be growing pepperonis, like, obviously you have an abundance of grease. And I went through the medical records. I remember of they're actually in the book. There was a medical section, and I read about this is a date. This dates far back. Back when surgery was basically looked frowned upon. It was not a good idea to open up somebody else's body to fix them. But in spite of that, there were records of grease injections into the body. And this may or may not be one of the ways, but Mr. Professor here has done extensive speech and recovery therapy on grease injections.
Yeah. It's pretty scary to think about, but back in the day, they used to actually inject grease to get, it released pheromones that gave them a high similar to pizza, but just 100 times that,
So it's like more concentrated of a high.
Right.
Exactly. First slice times like 10.
Your first slice like ever in life times like 11 and a half.
Yeah, and I heard the afterburn when you're coming down, it's just like you ate a whole like 2 extra larges, and you're just like the most full.
Exactly. But the next day you just want to do it all over again, and people were just getting hooked on grease injections like all the time, and it was bad. It was everywhere. It was extremely dangerous. That's why people don't do it as much anymore. But people were fiending for the grease back then.
Yeah, I remember they're shutting stores down too, restaurants, because people couldn't eat anymore because they just felt full after all that grease.
Right.
Hurting the community.
So
Exactly.
is it something that still happens? Maybe by more upper class and richer people today.
Um, you know, I wouldn't say that all of the upper class in general does it. I'm honestly not entirely sure, but it's definitely still around today. You know, people that can get their hands on it and are aware of it and can do it safely. It's definitely still done. I'll say that much.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but I've heard it's very expensive. One of the most expensive uh, procedures you can do
Hmm.
for
Right.
recreation.
Because it can't just be any grease. You know, you can. It's not something you can just like bake a pizza at home and use that grease. You know, it's not the
Yeah,
same.
it's like
Right.
wring wring it out into your syringe, but you need that pure stuff, you know.
Yeah,
High
and
quality pizza
that's one
grease.
of the things that a lot of people believe that only big pizza and big pepperoni are producing. You know, there might be more companies or even say the government that's producing and releasing these pure forms of pizza grease, but anything else that you just find on the street, it's not pure stuff and it's dangerous and it can kill people.
It, and this is one of the biggest this is the single biggest controversy is that the amount of deaths that have come, have happened with the unpure grease to the bloodstream, and this is something that they're constantly covering up every day under
Right. You never
million
hear about a pizza grease overdose, but if you look
million.
at the numbers, they happen. It's big.
Wow. Speaking of big, it's crazy that even just how far-reaching Big Pizza and their grubby little greasy little fingers grow. They have their reach into pretty much every industry, especially like the media and entertainment industry. They have their fingers stuffed in there real good. They have people spreading false information. Like um, as many people, not many people, but as some people would agree, that pineapple can go on pizza. Um, Obviously, many people are brainwashed into believing this isn't true by media and by big celebrities supporting the idea that pizza doesn't go on or pineapple doesn't go on pizza. Celebrities that have big influence, such as Gordon Ramsay, I believe, the chef, said you don't put pineapple on pizza, and even like pretty popular talk show hosts like Jay Leno and Jimmy Kimmel came out to say that they do not like they are very against pineapple on pizza, and they do not support anybody that believes pineapple goes on pizza. And what's really crazy to me is that it's only the people who don't believe that pineapple goes on pizza that have such strong feelings about it. The people who like pineapple on pizza, they're not like, you have to have pineapple on pizza. They're like, yeah, it's a good topping. But the people who are against it are very against it. They
They're
go as far,
brainwashed.
yeah, they go as far as to say is like, you cannot put pineapple on pizza. It's unacceptable. It
It's like a religion
You're
to them.
disgusting. Yeah, it's like a religion. It's like sacrilegious to put pineapple on pizza, when in reality they're just pushing big pizza, and this is the whole Pepperoni Gate pizza place conspiracy scandal that they're just pushing the agenda of onto the mass public. And it's really crazy is that people just pay so much attention to the media and trust these celebrities so much that they just take their word for truth, and they start to believe it for themselves.
That that's a really scary thing to think about because I actually back in '06 when YouTube was just starting up, I remember I was seeing a video of Gordon Ramsay actually making a pineapple pizza, and it was titled "My Favorite Pizza Topping." And he said he gets the finest pineapples from Hawaii, and his ham is imported from France. And he tries to make the he goes all out when he makes pizza, and he's telling how much is his favorite pizza. But
Wow,
that that I remember
that was
uh,
before the fame,
it
right?
was before the fame, but it was deleted the next day.
Oh my god, they got to him real quick.
They got to him real quick. See, and they're not like quiet. They're not like they don't have to be quiet about it because nobody even like realizes that they're a thing.
Right.
They're so entwined into our society, and they have such an outreach. Let me ask you this: have you ever seen a pineapple or Hawaiian pizza in a movie?
Not,
Yes, I have, Jizzy.
not that I can recall.
Have you ever seen a pineapple pizza in a TV show?
No,
Nope.
I don't believe so.
All right. That's big evidence against Big Pizza.
Wow. Yeah, they have their greasy little fingers in the movies and the TV, and they're able to silence any information against pepperoni being the best and main topic that goes on pizza.
Yeah, and the one of the aspects of this that really surprised me. I'm gonna go ahead and you're the specialist in this. But Big Pizza actually has a very big stretch on the sports industry, and it doesn't seem like it. And they use other foods to hide behind, but they're heavily involved.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. You may not think it because sports athletes are supposed to be fit. You can't really assume that any of them would eat pizza or anything. They maintain a healthy diet, but if you look at commercials during sports games, pizza commercials play more frequently on channels that play basketball and other sports related things than any other channel or during any other time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Every channel. And
Yeah.
let me ask you this: well, your first baseball game, your dad came out to see you. All your buddies, you just won. Your first game, you won your first game in your first game, and your coach, nice guy, real nice guy. He gets all the team together at the end of the match, and he says, "Let's go out to eat, all of us together as a team." And where do you guys go? Where's the first place that you guys go?
Oh my god. Pizza.
It's,
Always been. It's always been right under our noses.
since we were children.
Wow, they've really been. That must be the way that they get the most people just entranced in this belief, is that they indoctrinate them since children in any form that they can. And you brought up sporting events, and winning a sporting event, you go get pizza. Also, a way that they bribe children in school is with pizza parties, right?
Whoa.
You do good, you win a pizza party. What kind of pizzas do they get you? Pepperoni.
I've always been told that I'll get a pizza party, at least through like 4 times. I never get the end.
Wow.
I-
I'll say that me personally, I have been a recipient of a pizza party. So
Okay.
I can say that, at least in my case where I'm from, that it was not a lie, that the pizza party was an actual thing.
And there was actual pizza there?
It was pizza, but it was, the only options were pepperoni. There was no option for pineapple. There was no option for cheese. There was no.
Did
option.
you ask them?
Well, I'm a little kid. I just see boxes of pizza. I'm not really going out of my way to see if they have extra pizza somewhere. Because as a kid, you're thankful that, oh my god, there's actually pizza here and I get to take a piece.
Yeah, you take given. Mm-hmm.
But now that I really think about it, that's a way that they hook children right there, is through the pizza. Through pizza parties after winning sporting events, pizza parties at school, all of that.
It is my favorite food. even after all this research and all the lies, all the mutiny, I still enjoy pizza, which makes me very sad, but also angry, confused, but also happy when I take a first bite of a first slice.
It can be hard to step away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an addiction ingrained into our society.
Yeah, it's not something that you can just forget about.
It's what we are.
Yeah.
It's who we raised to become.
Yeah, and I think that's really one of the most important reasons why we had to do this episode, is to just shed a light on something that not a lot of people may think about or realize, and we just have to bring light to it so more people understand that, hey, there's a big conspiracy scandal going on with pizza places. Big pizzas trying to take over. They're trying to spread the agenda of Pepperoni Gate, that pepperoni is the best topping, the main topping, and the only topping. And people just need to come to the realization that maybe pizza isn't as safe as I thought it was.
Think about it. Every time you're about to order, every time you're in the line, look at the menus. Realize where you live, where we're going. And I hope